Hello students, welcome back to my class. Today I am going to teach a very interesting subject which is the rhetoric and figure of speech. Now if you may ask why should we use rhetoric? Rhetoric is something which we use in our day-to-day speeches and we use it frequently and it actually enriches our vocabulary, it enriches our way of talking. So from that perspective, rhetoric, rhetoric and figures of speech are very important. So this is meant for all the students, both BA students and master students. And if we learn rhetoric properly, we can use it in a better way. We can talk in a better way. We can write in a better way. It actually enriches our vocabulary and word usage. So, without wasting any more time, let us move to rhetoric. Let us understand what rhetoric is and how figures of speech actually enriches our vocabulary. Okay. So, rhetoric is the art of using language for persuasion. It actually a special way of how we use the languages. The term rhetoric was first coined from the Greek word rhetor. Okay, so if we see that our thought process and the ideas can be expressed in mostly two ways. On one hand, we have trope, and on the other hand, we have figures of speech. Trope is like it turns and twists some words or phrases to make it mean something else. Okay, so there are certain turns and twists, turns and changes we use to mean something else. And on the other hand, we have figures of speech, which is to some extent departure from the standard uses. Okay. So, in the course of this lecture, I will be describing each and every trope and figures of speech to understand, and I will be giving you several examples so that you can understand it clearly. Okay, so let us move to our very basic figures of speech which we have already heard. Our first figures are based on figures based on similarities. Okay, so the first type of figures of speech is simile. We have learnt about simile since our early days. Simile is something, it's comparison between two unlike things using like and as. I have given one example here. She is as red as rose. Now, try to understand. She is not a rose, but the way she looks, it seems like she is like a flower. She is like a rose. So when we are comparing two objects, not object, two person, I am talking about one girl and I am talking about a flower. Now when I am comparing that girl with the flower and when I am comparing the color of the girl with the flower's color, then we can use it as simile. And in simile, we generally use several words like likes, like or as. So she is as red as rose. We talk in that manner. So this is an example of simile. Another very popular figure of speech is metaphor. I have given another example. Camel is the sheep of the desert. Here, the point of similarity is between two dissimilar things. Now, let us understand. Camel is something which is not at all connected with sheep. Camel is an animal, whereas sheep is an object. But there is one similarity between them. The way we use camel, we use camel in desert, and we call desert as the ocean of sand. Okay, so just like camel, which is been used in desert, just like the sheep which we used in ocean, camel also serves the same purpose. So camel and sheep is to some extent similar. So this kind of similarity between two dissimilar things is called metaphor. Here camel is considered as tenor and sheep, the thing which we consider, is vehicle. So this is metaphor, and this is a very important figure of speech. Apart from that, we have analogy. What is analogy? Analogy is something which is partial alike. Like partial likeness. If there is some kind of partial likeness between two things, then we can use it as analogy. Let me give an example. Often we say, a heart is to a man is what a pump to a village. Now understand this. Heart is to a man. What is the purpose of the heart? Heart does the pumping of blood. It's a machine in our body. So the purpose of this heart is compared to the purpose of the pump in respect to the village. So the analogy here is, a heart is to a man is what a pump is to a village. So this is analogy. So let us move to our next slide. In this slide I will be talking about figures based on differences. So here there are three examples which I am going to talk. The first one is antithesis. Here we talk a thing by talking about the negative of that thing. A thesis under negation of another. Okay. As for example, let us take the famous speech by Brutus from Julius Caesar. Here he said, "Not I loved Caesar less, but I loved Rome more." So here a thesis is being established under the negation of another. So this particular figure of speech can be called antithesis. Another very famous figure of speech is epigram. So epigram is something which has been established through apparent contradiction, and through those apparent contradiction we establish a very deep meaning. Suppose we say a child is the father of the man. The thing is, it's something is very much shocking. How can a child be the father of the man? But the inner meaning of this particular statement is that inside every child there lives a father who can be the father of the mankind. So if we actually explain it in that manner, then we can understand the hidden meaning behind the apparently shocking statement. Because a child cannot be a father of a man. That's biology. But when we say, so this apparent contradiction is actually giving some deep meaning to it. Then we have another one. This is also very popular. This is oxymoron. Oxymoron is something which is apparent self-contradiction which lay side by side. For example, if we say the sound of silence. Now, silence has no sound. But if we understand it from a deeper perspective, deeper meaning, if we try to find a deeper meaning inside it, there is always a sound, even if it is silent. So, like when we say ki white is the collective collection of all the colors, the sound of silence. So apparently there is no sound in silence, but we try to project some kind of sound out of silence. So this is the example of oxymoron. Let us go to the next one. Here we will be talking about figures based on association. In this particular figure of speech, we have metonymy. Metonymy is the substitution of name of one thing for another thing related to it. This is very interesting. When we say he is reading Shakespeare, the thing is, what we are meaning here is that he is reading Shakespeare's books, not Shakespeare. But the thing is, we are actually substituting the names of one thing with the another thing which is related to it. We are reading the books written by Shakespeare. Instead of that, we say we are reading Shakespeare. So this is an example of metonymy. Similar, another example can be the synecdoche. Synecdoche is another figure of speech where a more comprehensive term is used instead of a less comprehensive term. Suppose we often say, I am here to earn my daily bread. So, what is the bread here? Bread is not just a bread. Bread is the food. Bread is the living livelihood. So, while I am saying I have to earn my daily bread, I am not talking about the bread alone. I am talking about so many things. I am also talking about the clothes. I am also talking about the shelter. I am also talking about the other food items. So, actually, this particular word bread is something which is actually representative of all the essential things which we need. So, this is some kind of a more comprehensive term is used instead of less comprehensive term in synecdoche. Apart from that, we have hyperlage or transferred epithet. Transferred epithet is an adjective or one noun which is transferred to one noun related to it. Now, this is interesting. One noun is transferred to another noun related to it. When we say a very way. Now, a way or a road, or often we say a very road. A road is not weary. A road is not a tired person. But the person who is traveling on the road, the person who is actually walking on the road, he is tired. So, the tired is the weary is the person, not the road. So, the traveler is actually weary. The road is not weary. That is the thing. But we are actually using the adjective of the traveler. Here the adjective of the traveler is weary, a weary traveler. But we are shifting that particular adjective to the road itself. A weary way, or a weary road, a tired road. Road is not tired here. The person who is actually traveling on the road is tired. So now we are transferring the things. So that is why it is called transferred epithet. Then we have got figures based on imagination. The best example is personification, where the lifeless objects are inverted with the qualities of human being. Personification is very interesting. For example, we often say, the death lays its icy hands. Now, death is not a person, but we are giving some kind of qualities of human beings into death. Death lays his icy hands. Death doesn't have a hand, but when we are using it as figure of speech, we are giving some kind of personified ideas of death. Death becomes a human being here. Okay, so this is an example of personification. Then another very interesting, but you have to understand the difference between these two, personification and pathetic fallacy. Pathetic fallacy is attributing human emotions to inanimate objects. Now, in the first case, we have some kind of lifeless objects which we cannot see. We cannot see death, right? But in pathetic fallacy, we do these things to those inanimate objects. For example, the train panted into the station. The train panted into the station. Now, the train is a machine. It cannot pant. Pant means, taking deep breaths. So, just like a man who takes deep breath after a long journey, after a long walk, after a long run, similarly, we can compare the concept of train who actually pants, like after traveling 100 kilometers, a train reaches another station. So, while entering the station, the speed of the train gradually falls, gradually decreases. So, here we can see as if the train is taking some kind of deep breath and the train is actually taking some rest into the station while after reaching the station. So, we are giving some kind of human attribution to those inanimate objects like train. So, this is an example of pathetic fallacy. Apart from this, we have apostrophe. So, apostrophe is something, it's a kind of figure of speech where a sudden, short, impassionate address to a person or to a death or a dead or someone who is absent. This is very interesting. Try to understand this. There is often we can utter some kind of impassionate address. Suppose there is a war between two countries. We have war with our neighbors. So often we say, "Oh, Pakistan, what have you done?" So I am not directly talking to the Pakistan or the people of Pakistan. Or often we say, "India, what a play, what a match it was." Often we say that. We are not talking to India, we are talking to not to some specific player, we are not talking to someone else, but we are doing some kind of passionate address. So this particular type of figure of speech is known as apostrophe. Then we have hyperbole. Hyperbole is another figure of speech which expresses a thing greater or less to create stronger impression. So, to create some kind of stronger emotion, we have read the famous poem by Wordsworth, Daffodils, where he says, 10,000 saw I at a glance. He has seen many flowers there, he has seen many daffodils there, but he could not count. He has just mentioned a number, 10,000 saw I at a glance. So, this particular number, the numbers of the daffodils might be less, might be more, but he has given the number 10,000. Why? Because it gives some kind of stronger impression to the particular aspect. So, in that way, it's a kind of figure of speech, hyperbole. Then, apart from that, we have figures based on indirectness. There are many very common figures of speech, like irony. Irony is something which is actually very opposite of what it is stated or intended. So we often say there is a famous character from Othello, that is Iago. So he is a very evil character, and often we say honest Iago. Okay, so honest is not something which is we honest is not that adjective which we should use with Iago, but the thing is, by stressing that particular word, we are actually pointing out the fact that he is not honest. So this is a kind of figure of speech where the very opposite is intended, and we call it irony. Then there is sarcasm. Sarcasm is very common nowadays. Here, speaker says what he means, but the tone is meant to excite or ridicule. Okay. Speaker says what he means, but the tone is meant to excite or to ridicule the person. Let us take the example from Arms on the Man, where the protagonist, she says, "Some soldiers I know are afraid to die." So there is a tone of sarcasm. Not all soldiers are brave. Some soldiers I know are afraid to die. In this particular statement, there is a hint of sarcasm here. So we often say so many good things, but in those good things we often put some kind of ridiculousness to that particular person or particular object. So this is called sarcasm. Then we have periphrasis or circumlocution. This is another figure of speech where the direct wordings are avoided. We are supposed to speak about something, but we avoid the direct words. For example, when we say he has gone to eternal sleep, he is not sleeping at all, he has died. But we are avoiding the direct words, and we are avoiding the direct words to create some kind of impression so that the bad things can be avoided. We are not taking he has passed away or he has died. We often say he has gone to eternal sleep. So sleep is something which can be connected with death here. Okay, so this is periphrasis or circumlocution. Our next figure of speech is euphemism. Euphemism is the figure of speech where we use a milder expression to convey a disagreeable truth. This can be compared with periphrasis. Let me give another example from death. We often say he breathes his last. We directly do not say he has died. We say he breathes his last. It was his last breath. So we are actually not talking about the death. We are actually talking about how he lived. That was his last death and last breath. So this is an example of euphemism. Our next figure of speech is innuendo. Here we hint something unpleasant by saying something pleasant. Suppose, let me give you an example. You come to me and you ask me, "Sir, I have written this poem. Can you say how the poem is?" I have read the poem and I understood that the poem is of very poor quality. But since you are here to me, you came to me and you said you are very much enthusiastic in writing and all. So I could not tell you directly that your poem is bad. What I would say, your handwriting is very good. For example, we have like several reality shows, like the dance reality shows or the singing shows, where the participant has performed, and when the host actually asks the judge, how was the performance? Judges often say, "You look very good." He or she does not talk about the performances. Instead, this is, you are looking beautiful in that pretty dress, something like that. So it's a kind of way of hinting something unpleasant by saying something pleasant. So when you ask me, sir, how do you like my poem? When I say your handwriting is very good, that's not something very positive thing to say. So this is the example of innuendo. Okay, so let us go to our next figure of speech, which is meiosis. So meiosis is something which is understatement which is deliberately made to heighten the effect. When we say she is rather beautiful, apparently it seems she is not that beautiful, but the thing is like it is an understatement which makes her more beautiful. She is rather beautiful means she is very beautiful actually. So the understatement is deliberately made to heighten the effect. And our last figure of speech from this particular thing is litotes. Litotes is an affirmative sentence which is made through the negation of the opposite. When we say he is no fool, what does that mean? He is very clever. I am no fool. So I am using the two negation. First I am saying no and then I am saying myself fool. So two negation makes a positive thing. That means I am very clever. So this is an example of litotes. Then we have figures of speech based on sound. We have onomatopoeia where using a sound suggests the object named. Okay. For example, when we say life's fitful fever, okay, or the crow caws, the word cawing is actually making the sound of the bird, particular crow. Okay, so this is an example of onomatopoeia. Apart from this, we have pun, which is often also known as paranomasia. Pun is the use of wordplay. Those of you who have attended my lecture on Preface to Shakespeare, Preface to Shakespeare. In that particular essay, Samuel Johnson has talked about Shakespeare's fascination with wordplay. We often play with the words. Okay, so that particular word does not directly mean that particular thing, but it has some deeper message into it. We call it pun. So let us move to the next figure of speech, alliteration. Alliteration is something where we have the repetition of the consonants. Okay. Suppose we say, let us go to the courts, to the camps, to the cottage. So we are using the same consonant in every words. Courts, camps, cottages. So this is a repetition of the consonant words to make some kind of positive thing or to make some kind of impression. Similarly, we have assonance. Assonance is for vowels, where we repeat the vowel words. Like my soul is also sore vexed. So O is repeating every time here. Soul is also sore vexed. So we have the repetition of the vowel O. So this is alliteration and assonance. Then we have figure based on construction of the sentences or phrases. One famous example is chiasmus. Often we have the same words, but we use it in a different manner. Suppose when we say, when going gets tough, the tough gets going. Okay. Or learn to live and live to learn. This is chiasmus. Okay, that's some kind of exchange We have crisscross exchange. Then we have zeugma. Zeugma is a single verb to denote two work. This is very interesting. If I say, my friend has lost his hat and temper. Now these are the two different things. Temper is the anxiety and hat is something, some object. When I say my friend lost his hat and temper, that means I am using the same word, same verb, lost, to denote he has lost his hat and he was very angry. Okay, he has lost his hat and he has lost his temper. So same verb for two different work. Then we have hyperbaton or inversion. Inversion is the grammatical order of the words to emphasize. Here we inverse the grammatical order of the words. When we say silver and gold have I earned, silver and gold have I earned. So I have earned gold and silver, we could say that. But this makes some kind of emphasis. Silver and gold have I done. Then we have polysyndeton. Polysyndeton is another figure of speech which is the unnecessary use of conjunction. This is also used to make some kind of stress. So let me give an example. Souls that have toiled and wrought and taught. This is an example. Unnecessary use of conjunction. I went there and there and there. That was not necessary and was not exactly necessary, but we are giving an stress. I went to Patna and Goa and Bhagalpur and Munger. So when I am saying like that, I am stressing on the particular places by using the conjunction over and out. So this is polysyndeton. Apart from that, we have anaphora, where we actually repeating a word and phrase. For example, when we say water is here, water is there, water is everywhere. Water is here, water is there, water is everywhere. When we say like that, we are actually stressing on the thing water. Suppose we are traveling in a sea voyage and we are actually seeing water everywhere. So we could have said water is here, there and everywhere. Instead, we are actually stressing on the particular word. Water is here, water is there, water is everywhere. We are actually stressing on the particular word water and how much it is in present. So apart from this, we have some more. These are the three more figure of speech. One is paradox. Paradox is something which is to some extent which is apparently something which we do not understand, but it has some kind of deeper meaning. For example, a favorite has no friend. The person who is favorite has no friend. So this is very, very striking also, and this gives some kind of very special effect to us. Then we have bathos or anticlimax. What is bathos? Bathos, anticlimax, when we are expecting something and something else happens and which is totally opposite. For example, there is a famous sentence, I have forgotten who has written this. Poets and pigs are not appreciated until they are dead. Now we are comparing poets with pigs and they are not appreciated until they are dead. So it's a kind of anticlimax. I was talking about poets, I was talking about their achievements, and suddenly I have included pigs. So this is a kind of anticlimax. And apart from this, we have asyndeton. Asyndeton is the opposite of polysyndeton. In polysyndeton, I have already said we use unnecessary use of conjunction. In asyndeton, we do not use conjunction. There is an absence of conjunction For example, there is a famous speech in Shakespeare: I came, I saw, I conquered. He could have said, I say, I came and I saw and I conquered. Here, the conjunctions are absent. Here, we use only the commas. I came, I saw, I conquered. So, these are all the important figures of speech which can be studied, and if we use this kind of figures of speech in our day-to-day talkings, or if we use these things in our writings, it enhances our abilities, it enhances our stock of words, it increases our ways of understanding things. So from that way, figure of speech is very important in understanding language. Thank you.